This film plays like a grounded, modern frontier documentary, following a 45-year-old American father, his 35-year-old American wife, their 10-year-old son, and 15-year-old daughter, as they turn an empty Alaska clearing into a working log cabin homestead. What makes it instantly compelling is how practical it feels. No fantasy survival theatrics, no manufactured drama, just the real rhythm of a family building something that has to stand up to cold, hot wind and time. From the opening aerial reveal of spruce forest, river, and distant peaks, the visual language is clear. Wide establishing shots to sell scale, then disciplined, work-focused close-ups that celebrate technique, texture, and effort. The build progression is satisfying because it respects the true order of operations. First comes the layout and footprint, with string lines, corner pads, and a sense of careful planning that signals competence. Then the forest becomes the lumberyard. The felling and bucking sequences are some of the strongest in the entire piece, because you can feel the weight and consequence of every cut. Sawdust bursts into the air, trunks settle with a deep thump, and the soundscape keeps it honest. Wind in branches, river noise, the mechanical bite of tools, boots crunching on snow. There is no need for music because the natural audio does the emotional work, turning simple actions into something immersive. Once the first sill logs land on their foundation pads, the story shifts from gathering to shaping. The corner work, notching, and peg placement become the film's craftsmanship backbone. The camera consistently chooses angles that make the joinery readable without turning it into a sterile tutorial. Tight detail shots linger long enough to appreciate wood fibers splitting under a chisel, the clean geometry of a notch, and the moment a log finally seats with that unmistakable, satisfying finality. You can tell the editor understands pacing. Each step feels earned, and each new layer of the wall comes with visible progress. That sense of forward momentum is key to retention, because the audience always knows what is changing and why it matters. One of the smartest creative decisions is the commitment to continuity. Keeping the family's clothing fixed across the entire runtime might sound like a minor detail, but it becomes a powerful anchor. The father's dark olive canvas jacket and tan work pants, the mother's navy parka and headband, the son's bright red puffer, and the daughter's mustard yellow jacket create instant visual identification in every frame. It also makes the film feel like one continuous chapter of life, rather than a montage stitched from unrelated days. The silver four-wheel drive pickup and the consistent staging of tools and materials reinforce that same sense of a real place that persists between scenes. As the walls rise, the film builds tension in a realistic way. Weather and logistics, not melodrama. The roof phase is where the narrative naturally tightens. Rafters and ridge work feel precarious, not because anyone is acting scared, but because the framing and movement emphasize height, leverage, and wind. When conditions shift, gusts snap tarps, the river sounds louder, snow swirls, the urgency is earned. The family's response feels cohesive. Secure materials, reinforce the build, move supplies out of harm's way. There is a quiet respect here for how quickly nature can change the terms of your plan. The cinematography supports that shift by leaning into a wider sky, quicker handheld movement, and more aggressive sound effects, while still staying clean and controlled. After the storm pressure, the film transitions into the most rewarding part, turning a structure into a home. Flooring, chinking, window casing, door hanging, and interior organization are not just finishing steps here. They are emotional payoffs. You see the cabin become warmer, more orderly, more lived in. The stove sequence is especially effective. The hearthstones, the careful pipe routing, the roof flashing, and then the first small fire provide a cinematic moment without breaking realism. The crackle of kindling and the subtle metal pings of heating steel create a sense of safety that the audience can feel. When smoke finally rises cleanly from the stovepipe in a wide exterior shot, it lands as a genuine milestone. The cabin is no longer a project, it is shelter. The middle stretch after completion is where the film earns its family life promise. It does not stop at a glossy reveal. It shows maintenance, adaptation, and routine. Clearing roof snow, managing condensation, stacking wood, reinforcing storage, fixing squeaks, improving drainage, and building small auxiliary structures like a lean-to woodshed and a simple outhouse. These choices add credibility and deepen the story. Survival in a place like this is not one heroic act. it is 100 small, consistent tasks performed correctly. The kids are portrayed as contributors without forcing them into unrealistic competence. The daughter becomes a steady second pair of hands, alignment, bracing, holding lines, while the son's role is constant support, carrying, sweeping, passing fasteners, clearing snow. The mother's presence is equally practical, measuring, bracing, mixing, smoothing, organizing, and directing through silent gestures. It becomes a portrait of teamwork that feels authentic. From a filmmaking standpoint, the strongest element is how the camera avoids sensationalism while still delivering drama. Shots are composed to prevent distraction. Faces are often angled away or obscured by hats, keeping the focus on hands, materials, and the environment. This is a smart solution for a cinematic build story because it avoids awkward staged reactions and lets the craft carry emotion. Lens choices and movement generally balance variety with coherence. Wide lenses to establish the scale of the wilderness, mid-range lenses to follow action, and occasional long lens moments to compress the distance when wildlife or the far tree line becomes relevant. The result is a consistent visual identity, crisp daylight, realistic contrast, and a grounded documentary feel. If there is a place to improve, it is in the final third's escalation. The film is strongest when it alternates progress with pressure. After the cabin becomes stable, the tension becomes more subtle. Tracks in snow, wind shifts, distant animal silhouette, heavier snow load. That realism is admirable, but the edit could heighten the stakes a bit more with clearer cause and effect sequences. For example, a more defined problem that threatens comfort or safety, followed by a multi-step solution that the audience can track. Even something as simple as a serious drainage issue, a roof ice dam, or a storage failure could be staged as a mini-arc to keep engagement high without breaking authenticity. Still, the ending lands. The final pullbacks that reveal the whole homestead layout, cabin, woodshed, outhouse, fence section, woodpile, and the pickup, deliver a strong sense of accomplishment. The family standing with their backs to the camera against the vast landscape is a classic image, and it works because it has been earned through methodical, believable labor. Overall, this is a clean, immersive, and satisfying build and life film. Equal parts craft, environment, and quiet resilience. If you want a story that feels real, looks cinematic and dated, and respects the process, this is exactly the kind of video that keeps you watching to the last frame.